What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends. It is the 31st day of August, and here we are at about $108.5 thousand, down 6.2% on the month. 8 hours, 43 minutes left in the day, in the week, and in the month. It's a trifecta of closing prices or closing periods right here. I wonder, what about the 3-day time frame? Is it even? Wow, even for the 3-day, from the daily, the 3-day, the weekly, and the monthly. That's crazy. What about the 2-month? And the 2-month. Oh my goodness. Wicked, man. Very wicked. A lot of things closing, a lot of time frames closing on this day here. Anyways, when we close here, if we close here, we do have 8 hours 43 minutes left. A lot can happen, but if we close here, it's looking like we are going to have bearish divergence on the RSI. We won't just have bearish divergence on the RSI, but we'll have it on the stochastics and the MACD as well. On the monthly time frame, it's a pretty powerful implication that we would go down, okay? We haven't talked about that at all this month because I was anticipating that we'd have an end-of-month pump that would be at new all-time highs by the end of the month, so that wasn't a concern of mine. But here, now that we're knocking on death's door, it's certainly relevant, I think, to talk about. Short of a miracle pump happening, 6.2% in the next 8 hours, 42 minutes, which for Bitcoin, it's very possible it can do that. The fact that it's a Sunday, I think, diminishes that a little bit, but also, to be fair, Sundays have been good to us rather lately, so I mean, we'll see. Anything's possible, and if we do pump by the end of today up above, what we'd have to close above is $115.8 thousand, essentially $115.7 thousand. If we can do that by the end of the day, then maybe there's some hope. But I want to talk about what this bearish divergence means, okay? Now, first off, I don't believe that we're going to. I don't believe the bull market's over. I don't believe we're starting a bear market. And I don't believe that we're even going to go down to the targets that would be implied by this bearish divergence. And I'll explain why. Okay, I have a reason for it, but I do want to go over what it might imply and something that we should at least be open to as a possibility. Okay, even as tragic as it might be. Bearish divergence, for those of you that don't know, and this one started here because we had a high, a lower high, and a lower high with highs, higher highs, higher highs. So you're having lower highs in your indicators, all three of them really, and then higher highs in your price. Whenever you have bearish divergence, typically you see the price go back down to where that divergence started and even through it. Typically is the key word there, okay? Typically, almost always, like 90% of the time, if not more, you don't just go back to where it started, but you go a little bit through it. That's all the way down to $71.3 thousand, and Bitcoin's at $108.5 thousand now. Now let's just talk about what that would imply, right? If Bitcoin were to go down there, it probably doesn't happen in 1 month, right? Probably not. We haven't seen anything crazy like that. I mean, since the end of the bear market, which that kind of move is an end of cycle bear market move, right? It's not like a mid bull cycle or even a beginning of the bear market kind of move. That just doesn't really happen. Beyond that, that would imply if it's not just a 1 month drop, if it's a multi-month drop like we've seen, right, from here to there, that was a 3-month drop. From here to there, that was a 5-month drop. To get those 30% drops overall, which this would be, let's just see, right, high to low. 33% drop right there. High to low. 32% drop right there. High to low. That would be a 42% drop right there. We would see the biggest drop that we've seen. If this is still presumed to be the bull market, that would be the biggest drop we've seen throughout this whole market cycle. And it would have to happen, I mean, it would take several months. And it would have to happen in the time that is typically the most bullish time for crypto, which is this end of the 4-year cycle, October, November, December timeframe, and even going into January. It's the most bullish cycle, so part of the cycle. So I doubt that this move down persists through September. It's very possible that it could persist into September, but I doubt that October and November would be, either or would be bearish as well. That's hard for me to wrap my head around. Just because it's hard for me to wrap my head around doesn't mean it can't happen, right? I'm just saying that's not typical. This is typical. Going where the bearish divergence begins, it's very typical to go down to where that is and then through it. What's not typical is the type of move that this would promote. So let's make sense out of it. Why might we not go down to this level? Why might this bearish divergence not play out? And my answer to that is perhaps it already has. Perhaps it already has played out. Perhaps this is not the divergence starting point right here. Perhaps this divergence, in fact, has already played out in itself. And that's exactly what this drop was. Now, our low did not interact with this line nor go below it. But again, the word I used was typically. Typically, and we absolutely did have bearish divergence between these, and still do technically, but high, lower high, high, higher high. We did have that here. We even had double bearish divergence because you had a high, lower high, lower high, right? And then high, higher high, higher high. That's double bearish divergence. And you saw a move down that came pretty close to where the target area, the requirement level would be. And I've seen this happen before in stocks and cryptos where you don't have to hit that level. You don't have to go through it. And if you're in a bullish enough environment or not a bearish enough environment, you won't go to that area. That does, I think, suffice. It's not common. This kind of behavior is not common, but it does happen. And if you get stuck on that the need to come back down to this area, that can mess you up. It can definitely mess you up, and it's messed me up in the past. So maybe if anybody's looking at it like this, maybe we're looking at it wrong. Maybe instead the divergence is not started from here, but it's this divergence that we should focus on. And in which case, I think we have something that's a little bit more, is the word palpable? Is that appropriate? A little bit more suitable. Something down to about $102,000. And then the thought again would be that if we did this before, where we found support just above where our divergence marker was, because we're in the middle of a bull market, we're in a bullish situation, could we do the same thing here? Do we have to go to $102.5 thousand, or can we find support above, right? We're having a hell of a time moving down. And beyond all that, hold on, you guys. But beyond all this, we have a ton, an absolute behemoth load amount, a metric crap ton of shorts. I don't think I've ever seen this many shorts. Literally, the shorts outweigh the longs, you guys, at a 6-to-1 ratio, even over that, right? It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. On top of that, if we're looking at Bitcoin here, BTC, what the hell? Look at that. What is wrong? I can't click on this tab. That tab's all weird. Something's up with my computer. I got to restart this after this video. But if we look at this Bitcoin futures, the CME futures, okay, we have a gap up to the upside. And Bitcoin does not have to fill all gaps. There are gaps from last cycle that we never filled and we never will fill, okay? There are gaps at 20K that we're never ever going to fill. It's never going to happen, okay? But there is a gap here, and all the upside gaps, or the gaps down, all the gaps to the upside, they always get filled. Always. They always have. Every single one of them gets filled. Why? Because over time Bitcoin increases in price. There's a gap here, $116.8 thousand. So, again, just rationalizing this here, if we had bearish divergence that dated back here to $71,000, and we were to go back there, we've got a CME gap to the upside, okay? We do have that. We're about to, if today continues to come down, we're going to have a CME gap here as well, because today's at a lower price than where Friday closed. And we don't typically leave these CME gaps open for too long whenever they're to the upside. So I would think that and I wanted to actually map this out. Maybe I'll do that in another video sometime. But I wanted to map out this whole cycle and see how long these gaps to the upside were left open for. Because they can get left open for a few days, a couple weeks maybe, maybe even a month. I don't know. But they don't last that long, okay? The downside gaps can last a little bit longer. But anyways, I'm getting off on a whole different point here. Just adding to the momentum, the implication that, are we really going to go down? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And this bearish divergence, while it is intimidating, let's say, it can be misread. And a lot of people, charts can trick people, man. A lot of people think they know what they're doing, and that it means that we go all the way back here. But maybe we've already seen that move. Maybe this divergence, again, it's not as stretched out as people might think it is. Maybe it's just between these 2 points. And if that's the case, we're at $108,000 now. That drop would be to $102,000. If not, we do the same thing that we did here. That's a very mild drop between now and then. And I wouldn't be surprised if in September, at this point, I've gone back and forth on this. In the middle of August, early August, I thought that we would drop in September in the beginning, and then last week I was saying we'd pump into September because that's what the charts were looking like at the moment. But right now, it would, I think, be beneficial to actually drop in the beginning of September, have that month come back up in reverse and close green. I do believe at this point September is going to close green. I think sentiment is down, right? We've got, if we're looking at this here, we've got fear in the markets. We've got fear, and we're at our all-time high. We're about to get the second highest monthly close. With this red month, we'll have the second highest monthly close in Bitcoin's history. Okay? and we're in levels of fear on the fear and greed index. And the fear and greed index on CoinMarketCap, I'd say, is a lot more versatile. I trust this a lot more. The other one works too, the alternative.me one, or alternate.me, whichever one it is. But I think this one's more versatile. CoinMarketCap's got it dialed in, man. I really like this feature on theirs. I think it's very useful. But if we close here, especially, so I think that fear, and then you read X, you see all the liquidations, man, the shorts, it's crazy. In fact, I wonder how much over the past day have we piled on. There's actually more longs than shorts. And then if we look at that, we analyze that, where might it make sense to go down to? If we are dropping down to this area or lower, because there is bearish divergence between these 2 points, could we go to 102K? Could we stop somewhere just above or just below, right? Any of that's possible. A lot of these longs, about $3 billion worth, get cleared out at, I mean, really all of them get cleared out. This whole island here gets cleared out at about $105,000. Down here, about $104,000. We could go just above this area like we did here, resolve that divergence in a very bullish fashion, and then continue to rip from there, right? Just like we did here with the month of April, where we wicked down in the beginning and then we came back up, right? How many people do you guys remember? Do you remember back here? You probably don't, because we have such short attention spans, but do you remember? I remember very clearly that there were a ton of people that were calling for the price to go just a little bit lower. People were calling for the price to go below 60K. The majority of people were, right? The bears, the true bears were. A lot of people were calling for 70K or lower. We were at 74.5, and even I was calling for us to go just below 74K, an extra $500 lower, right? A lot of people were expecting that the price would go just a little bit lower. We did pretty all right with this low, right? I was off by a little bit, but and this one we thought we had, but hell, it's mismanaged. You can't be right every time, right? I'm definitely not. I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. But all I'm trying to say here is we're just trying to make sense out of this. We're trying to make sense out of this. Beyond that, if we look at the MACD, this bearish divergence here on the MACD didn't start back here. It actually did start back here. Further idealizing, I suppose, that this point might be sufficient to resolve itself. We look at the stochastics, and this divergence, I suppose, no, because you have, is that a higher high? Let's see. Please let it be a higher high. That'll just add to the fire. Yeah, it is. So this is a higher high here. So that divergence actually only starts at this point as well. 2 out of the 3 indicators implying that this is what needs to happen, not this down here, right? And even with the RSI, again, it can be misread, mismanaged. I've seen stuff like this happen, and then you come up and you break through it anyways, right? I've seen that happen. But typically you do get some kind of drop, even if you don't go all the way through that line. So I don't know, man. I'm just addressing that there. Here, let's go over the short-term stuff, and then we'll wrap this video up, okay? It's a lot to wrap your head around. And I wanted to go over the negative first because it's something we should be aware of. It's a possibility. But also, you know, this is something else I meant to talk about. We've seen this happen before where in the middle of a bull market, we get these long kind of lulls, right? But this happened, again, this was that summer lull. If we go over, and this is the all-time history for Bitcoin here, right? Let's see. I want to paint these cyclical lines. What do I use? Is it this one? It's this one here. We're going to go for end of year stuff, okay? We're going to go from October, okay, to October. And we're going to paint that one white, okay? White implies it's the beginning, or whatever, for whatever reason. It's not because I'm racist. It's just because, I don't know, that's the color that it's on. We're going to go from October to January each year, okay? January. And then January will be colored red because red means stop. Okay. That period there, from October to January, you actually closed higher, right? You actually saw a higher price than where you were in October, even in the bear market. This period here, same thing. This period here, same thing. This period here, no. This period here, yes. This period here, yes. This period here, yes. This period here, no. This period here, it's like neutral, so we'll say not a no or a yes, but yes, no, yes, because you did close in January. You actually did close above where October was. Yes, yes, right? Most of the time, typically speaking, we do close by January above where we were in October. So again, just relaying the idea that even if we were to go down for the next couple of months or so, we would still likely come back up by the end of January, and this cycle would continue into 2026. Does that make sense? I would at least assume it does. I don't know. And that's maybe not the best example of that. Really what I'm trying to say by that is that this is typically the most bullish time of the year. How many of those, however many there were bullish and not bearish, right? Most of them were bullish by far. I don't know. Let's just go in the 1 hour time frame and we'll do some short-term stuff, okay? 1 hour, let me fix this here real quick. I love that automatic button. Skills unlocked whenever you start using those automatic buttons. The 1 hour RSI actually doesn't look bad if we're being fair. We're being completely fair. I don't mind the 1 hour RSI. The price action is very dead. It's very weird. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of odd looking price action. It looks very mechanical. You know, hint hint at that market manipulation stuff. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. From a high to or low to a high here. We're right at the golden ratio. But typically if you go from the golden ratio to the 382.5, that's your resistance point, and then you work your way down. So if we return back down to about 108.1K, we probably do go lower. If we break above $109,000, we probably are going higher. And again, could that happen by the end of the day? Well, as far as the RSI is concerned, I think we're in a good posturing to do that. Bouncing off the 40 area here, getting near the overbought, so not getting oversold would be nice. But the stochastics are coming up too, and the MACD looks like it's rejecting. This is the one thing that I guess trips us up. But to be fair, the MACD is less reliable when you're moving sideways. It's even less reliable on the 1 hour time frame than anything else. So for that one being the one that's tripping us up, the other two seem good. I'm going with the other two. Plus two outweighs one anyways. 4 hour time frame, we're bouncing off the oversold zone. Where before you were getting into the oversold zone, now you're bouncing off of it. Right? That's actually a good thing. But we're not doing anything good with it. That is a little concerning. Same thing with the stochastics. The MACD is crossed up, but again, we're moving sideways. I wouldn't weigh too much on that. We do have bullish divergence on the MACD, on the stochastics, on the RSI. Has that divergence already fulfilled itself? Maybe, maybe not. You know, it's kind of a neutral look, but I would still say leaning more to the bullish side. Does that mean that by the next 8 hours, 27 minutes, we pump up? I don't know. And by the way, you guys, and maybe this is too late to say, but if we happen to close today above where the month opened up, which the month opened up here on this day at 115.7K, 115.8K. If we close above there in the next 8 hours and 26 minutes, all that worry, all that concern, all that possibility of going down or the bearish divergence, it's nullified. There's no bearish divergence anymore. So that doesn't matter. But it would have to happen in the next 8 hours and 26 minutes. Does it happen? That's the question, right? That's the real question. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it'd be quite the miracle pump, let's just say, right? I mean, we look at this. Let's look at it on a 1 hour time frame real quick, okay? Let me tell you what I'm talking about seeing here, right? Just to show you how absolutely unlikely it is. Let's see. Basically, right a little bit higher, like right there, yeah. We would need to see a move just like that, and maybe a little bit over to the right here. Hold on. Basically just like that, okay. It'd have to happen just like that. And if we're looking since our all-time high, the closest we got was a move that was like this, right? And that was pretty nice. If we saw something like that, that's pretty nice. But again, that's the strongest move we saw, and it doesn't even come close to the mark, right? You can see a move that's bigger than that overall, but it took a lot more time, right? This move happened fast, but it was smaller. Now, on the contrary to that, we do have a lot of shorts. Maybe this short squeeze will be absolutely intense, and they are intense when they happen. You know, we've been here before. I suppose we have seen this move happen literally at this exact same price level, to be completely fair, even to a higher extent. But is that, let's see, 17, let's actually analyze that. Did that happen in a timely fashion? Because that looks like the type of move that we'd be looking for, but did that happen in a timely fashion? I'm just seeing if we've seen anything like this recently. From the 14 to the 20, that's a 6 hour period, and that was a 5.6% move. So that, even this beautiful move, all the way up, yes, it's what we'd want to see, but that took too much time compared to where we are now. We'd have to see something faster than anything we've seen really probably since June. Since June. It's not that it can't happen. It's not that this kind of movement hasn't happened before. It's just that it's incredibly unlikely. But if we're being fair, the 1 hour and the 4 hour time frames, while somewhat neutral, have a bullish tilt to them. There is a chance. To be on the fair side to the bears, it's Sunday. You don't really get big moves on. I mean, well, lately we have gotten some pretty big moves on Sundays, to be fair. But typically the weekend isn't known for voluptuous moves, right? At this point in time, I am thinking, and especially if we're looking at the daily RSI, you know, we found support here. We moved up. We found support here. We moved up. We found support here. We moved up here. We're dilly-dallying. Different behavior begets different results. I think we are going to go down. We're going to go down a little bit. And I think we will resolve this bearish divergence at $102,000 to $104,000. The golden ratio is right there at 104.8K. That's perfect. We could go all the way back down to about $100,000, but I don't believe $100,000 is going to break. If I'm right, it's going to happen in the beginning, obviously, the beginning of September. It's going to happen in the first week or two, even. We're going to have a quick drop, and then we're going to recover. And I very much anticipate the September closes green. I'll go over that in another video. But for now, I'm going to end this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. The most important thing to do right now, in my opinion, is to hold your shenanigans. HODL. Hold through. I do not believe at all that we are at the end of this bull market. And to each their own. Do what you want to do, right? Protect your capital, however you want to go about it. You know, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. But if this was the end of the bull cycle, this would be the first time that the majority of people were right at the top. This would be the first time that I've seen $3 billion add to shorts at the low level of this consolidation phase. We have $20 billion in shorts overall. The shorts outweigh the longs 6-1, and we're still going lower. It doesn't make sense. None of our pi cycle indicators, our macro indicators, none of them have flashed end of cycle stuff. So, and a lot of the crypto OGs agree. Does that mean that it can't happen? No, but it's something that, you know, to consider. Again, it wouldn't make sense. Plus, we're in that most bullish time of the year. We're in the presidential cycle for crypto. We're in the institutional cycle for crypto. People are buying this in droves, and the whole idea that there's no money left to go around because people are broke is a lie. These people have a lot of money, man, and they're not even close to being fully allocated. They can allocate more, and they want to allocate more, but the only way to do that, because it's such a scarce asset, is to get people like you to sell it to them. And they don't want you to sell it to them at a good price or a fair price. They want it on the cheap. They've been doing this for longer than most of you have probably even been alive, or about as long. Anyways, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.